One day at my English coaching center, our teacher just mentioned to us that, hey, somebody come up and explain this question to everybody and go through the answers. So he asked for volunteers to raise their hands who would come on the podium and explain it. So nobody raised their hand. I was also in the crowd thinking about, should I raise my hand or not? What actually helped me to raise my hand? The answer lies into the reality that speaking in English fluently is just one side of the coin. A huge portion of success in terms of your delivery in actually speaking depends on another aspect, which is how you present yourself, your communication skill. So today we'll be diving into the specific things that will help you to avoid the situation where you couldn't raise your hand just like me. Again, this also comes with mindset shift as well, because when you're talking, you always have the tendency that it's just more about what you're trying to tell, but how you're actually telling it is also very important, comparing what you're actually telling. So what's the mindset that's required here to really prevent the nervousness that comes up? It's just about being authentic to who you are. If you're a really humorous person, try to be that when communicating with someone else. Of course, if you're meeting the prime minister of any country and you're like, hey dude, how are you doing? That don't also work, right? So it's just about the balance between who you are, your authenticity, and also maintaining the standards of that event itself. Okay, so let's look at some key 3 strategies that I used earlier to prevent nervousness. So the first one is what I call the physiological sigh technique. It's very simple technique rather. What it's about is how you breathe. Just do this. You first breathe a deep inhale, then you take a small breath, then you release it. So leverage it whenever you're feeling nervous at any moment, even if it's like your exam or you're just trying to meet your boyfriend or girlfriend and you're very nervous. Okay, first of all, let me make it clear that whenever we are talking, it's not that we are reporting to a general. I'm the commander from company B and I'm from platoon C. It's not like that. Just have a conversation that you'd have naturally with anyone. So think of it like that, not take it so seriously that you become nervous. So it's like, hey, how are you doing? It's great honor to meet you. So how about we discuss that? So how is it going with your life with that? Okay, great. Oh, wow. So you breathe, you're calm, you speak. So just about a natural balance. So how to achieve it? Let's have a look. How do you enter in a room or whenever you're trying to talk with someone, how to face that person so you don't look nervous? How it's done is friendly presence. What constitutes a friendly presence? First of all, a huge smile. When you're smiling, people feel, okay, this person is a good person who is approachable. And then comes eye contact. So how to have an eye contact that's not creepy. At the same time, you're not too nervous, because when you avoid or stare at someone, it just looks that you're nervous. We'll get into specifics of eye contact just in a minute, but before that, how to have a body language that's open. So do not have like, hey, like this. Like if you're talking to someone and you're like this, then it just means that you're not fucking interested in the conversation. At the same time, if you're like dancing with that person while that person is calm, it'll look like a crazy nutmeg. So just don't go to any extreme of the both spectrum. When it comes to eye contact, I feel a lot of people suffer through it. How you want to manage it is just keep it natural, like look at the person and just have the conversation. And when you need to, because you cannot just keep staring at the person, because if you keep staring at the person, it'll look very odd. And what you need to do instead, so you got it right, it'll look very odd. So what you need to do is have a balance between when you're looking at the person versus when you need to put away. But do not put it away like as you were trying to avoid the person, but like it has to have some deep intensity whenever you're even like looking away. For example, I'm talking with you, let's just say your name is Priya. Hey Priya, how are you doing? And I feel there's a need to be someone different, and that's where I think we come in. We have to build a community that comes with the importance of building a greater and broader audience. You see, I was trying to intentionally avoid eye contact, not avoid, but just trying to look away. But I was looking at it with intensity, as if like I had something in my mind and I was like thinking something. See, I was doing it right now, okay? So that's exactly how I do it. Look at the person, but whenever you're doing, keep it like for like 5 to 10 seconds, depends on it. And then when you have to look away with proper direction and intensity, as if you're thinking something, as if you have something in mind and you look intentional, rather than like, hey, how are you doing? And I'm like, okay, that kind of thing. Okay, you got that. So have an eye contact that's balanced, and when you're looking away, it's intentional and looking intense in your eyes. Okay, so let's discuss a few elements of non-verbal communication. We think only words are the main factor when it comes to communication, but how you present your body, how you present the tone, how you present your facial expressions, emotions, all count and contribute to your overall impression. So let's look at the first element, which is pace. Also, you can say it as rate of speech. So as we discussed earlier, it's not about faster English speaking. Fluency doesn't mean to be faster. At the same time, you don't want to be very slow, because slow means boring and fast means you're unnatural, plus you are nervous as well. Sometimes you're trying to be too fast because you're just nervous. So how to balance it? Let me tell you that whenever you're communicating, let's just say at a scale of 1 to 10, if the details are not too important, then you can have a pace of like 7 to 8 where you're speaking faster. But let's just say you're trying to communicate something very intense. It's very important. Then you can reduce the speed. And having the cadence with faster and slower speed is the key here. And it'll sound to you immaculate. For example, let me tell you something that, hey, I have a great point regarding some things that I was thinking. And it's about that if you think for a moment how important in life is finding a proper balance with making money and making good quality relationships with people. I was slow when I was telling the quote or something like that, and it sounded intense. I'm doing it right now. So when you're slow intentionally, it gives intensity with what you're telling. But if you just do it all the time, then of course it will be boring. So be fast when you're trying to communicate some details that people do not need to remember, but with something where you need to communicate intensity, gravity, you can slow down slightly. So that's how you use this great strategy to present yourself as more charismatic. Apart from pacing, there's few other things that really help you with communicating charismatically. They are gestures, posture, and facial expressions. So when you're speaking, if you're using gestures, let's just give one more example that I will use in future as well, just in a minute. So Russia is a huge country. You see, there was a contradiction between what I just said and what I indicated. Like Russia is a huge country, but I just gestured in a way as if it's small. So how you present your talking with gestures also matter. You don't need to use irrelevant gestures like the one. At the same time, you do not want to be stiff like as if we're army, like, hey, Russia is a huge country. It's just about how you communicate, as if like people are deaf and you're also trying to communicate with the words. Now let me tell you, hey, Russia is a huge country. Like I communicated that with my own words. So your gestures are part of your communication. So gesture, and then comes posture. What with posture is that if you don't stand confidently, if you're like kind of bending and kind of like this, it'll look very odd, and it'll also reduce how you sound. So just keep in mind of posture as well. Try to be someone confident, speak strong, and just do not be arrogant, of course, like this. But it's just about like finding the proper balance, you're comfortable, and that kind of thing. So with communication, I feel these are the two things that really impact how you sound. And when your sounding is rhythmic, it sounds charismatic. That's when people perceive you as a great communicator and you don't seem nervous. So how do you use pauses? So as we discussed, like when you're speaking very fast, if you don't take pauses, people do not have the time to process the information that you're trying to communicate. But when you give them enough ample time to process what you're trying to communicate, they have the mental bandwidth to process what you're trying to communicate. That's it. You pause between, like, whenever you told something very important, pause for 2 seconds. What we do is that whenever you talk and we need to like move on, we say, we use these filler words like these, but try to avoid them. Instead of them, try to use pauses instead. Like rather than saying, let's just say, hey, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Hey, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. You see the difference? So use pauses intentionally and try to avoid the filler words and replace them with intentional pauses, because this allows people to process the information that you're presenting to them. Then comes pitch control. With pitch, what I mean, because it might be a bit technical. So when you're trying to talk, there's different, like, it's kind of like waveform into how you communicate. So how it's done is that when you're talking very fast and it goes into a great length and it sounds kind of like it just loses its depth. So it's like high pitch, but when you reduce the sound and you're slow and you're like trying to be a bit more voice deeper person, so then you reduce the pitch there. Now you sound a bit deeper. The point is that you need to balance out the pitch, high pitch versus low pitch. So how you to do it is that you want to start with high pitch, where you talk and gain the high pitch, then you drop it to the lower pitch. This is how you do it. So hey guys, how are you doing? And we are doing great job with how the project is going, and I believe it's gonna go great with time as well. But don't do this like, hey guys, how are you doing? It's going great, and we feel it's gonna be great again, and I feel it's gonna be great as well. So you go high pitch, you go high pitch, you go high pitch. So just don't do that, okay? So you won't believe how much our emotions and tone dictate how we sound and how people perceive us. Let's just say I request you to, hey, you need to smash that subscribe button right now. You do need to do it right now, okay? What kind of emotion I was trying to communicate here? Kind of like sadistic anger, right? But now let me tell you in this way, hey, if you do like the video, why not smash the subscribe button? It really motivates me. There's a difference because how I communicate the same words but with two different emotions shaped the perception of yours. So how you communicate completely depends on your emotions. So if you're trying to communicate something very intense, you have to have that kind of emotion where you're silent, where you're trying to be inspiring. At the same time, when you're trying to communicate something with like energy, that you're angry about some social problems. So then you're angry, then you're possessing that leadership, that you're showing your opinions with anger. So it depends on the context. So that's how you can leverage emotions to add depth and value to your communication. So it's all about variety. You can have sadness, you have energy, you have friendly, warmth. So that kind of thing you can just play with. You put all of it together, pitch, tone and emotions and pauses. You put everything together and now you communicate. You have a great combo and you sound great, that you know when to use a high pitch plus higher speed and a warm tone. At the same time, you know when to be intense, when to be slow, when to have more pauses. So that's how you have a great combination that puts you on that stage as a confident person. Now let's look at a few other stuff that will help you on communicating, but let's just say you got stuck at somewhere. So when you're stuck ever, do not make it like, hey, I'm really sorry that I'm not a very fluent person. I'm really apologizing about this because I'm so sad about this. Don't make a big deal out of it. This is the biggest mistake people do. Don't do that. Rather ignore it. And how can you be diplomatic? Diplomacy is the key. So let's just say you forgot something that you wanted to communicate and now you're like, okay, well, how do I put it? I forgot what I needed to say. Ask a follow-up questions to them. So if you're trying to talk with someone, he asked you a question, ask a question back that makes the other person think for 2 to 5 minutes. In the 2 to 5 minutes where he gives the answer, you come back with your answer with his prior question. Diplomacy, that's it. That you just throw a question at him or her, and that's how you come up with your own answer to the previous question he asked. And that's exactly how you can buy time whenever you feel that you got too nervous and you forgot what you need to say, or you just need to organize the thoughts a bit. Let me share an anecdote with you. So once Steve Jobs was asked an interesting question and he paused for 18 seconds and he just thought and then at last gave an answer to the interviewer. That gesture was perceived as something as intellectual rather than like, hey, he didn't have the answer as Steve Jobs. But that's not how we humans perceive things. We think that, okay, if it was given time, that means it was important. When it's important, people value it more. So take your time, like, hey everybody, I just think I need a few seconds to organize my thoughts so I can provide the max value to you guys. So, okay, then you take your time and organize the thoughts and then you deliver as you promised. There you go. All that for helping you to come across as someone very confident and you're very natural when you're communicating, and it just sets you to a different level in terms of your verbal communication. Now let's think of something like, let's just say someone just randomly tells you to talk about something. Then how do you come up with answers? So I love to use some frameworks. So it depends on the context of the question and what is it about, but there are some principles that you can follow across. So it's just about first understand that, then break it down and then respond accordingly. So let's just say someone asked you to explain more about Bangladesh's education system. So someone told you about that. So how do you answer to that? So you break it down into multiple questions or segments, more specifics, then you can answer to it. Like, okay, he asked me about education. What can things be explained here? So you tell about what is the current education system, what are the pros, what are the cons, and what's your opinion? Is it a story that you have to tell? You do that subconscious practice in your mind. Okay, this is the current system. I explain that. These are the pros and cons. I explain that. This is a story related to me and the education system. I share that. Storytelling, great thing to do when you're communicating. It connects with a different level. So just do that as well. You share a story. And at last, you also give an opinion and you can also ask a question. Of course, there's no hard and fast rule. It depends on the situation and the question itself on how you want to end that. But this is how you can break down any moment you are in where you are asked to give in a reply to anything. So break it down into multiple segments and then answer accordingly. And you can always use pros and cons, analysis, storytelling that is relevant to you and the topic, and as well follow-up questions and key takeaways or opinions that you have about that. That's all for today. I hope you had some practical strategies to help you get out of the nervousness that you feel whenever you are told to, like, hey, speak something in English specifically. And I know that for non-native speakers, it's very hard to, you can learn it, you probably know a lot of English, but when it comes to presenting it, when it comes to delivering it, that's where the nervousness kicks in. So you have to just follow the things that I've mentioned, and believe me or not, it'll change how you get perceived. When people talk to you, they will leave the room that, okay, this person was charismatic, great individual. That's kind of the lasting impression that you want to keep on people. I hope you enjoyed day 3's video, and we will meet you on the next day 4's training. Bye.